Hey everybody, welcome back to TGB Insider, a belated episode this month, but hopefully a juicy one. I decided to wait until after E3 to do this episode, so I'd have a lot to talk about, and there's a lot to talk about, so we might as well dive in. You might have already seen I did an E3 video on my channel. That was kind of more of a comedic goof, those things are really fun to make, so I decided to throw one together. But we're going to have a bit of a more candid chat about E3 this time. A lot of people were saying in the comments of my video that you hated everything, you didn't like anything. And, I think that's a bit misguided. I did have like a section at the end where I'm just like losing my shit over a couple of games and how excited I am. But they do have a point. It was kind of just a big ramble. I did actually have some segments in there about stuff I did like, but I wanted to, I didn't think they were as strong as the rest of the video, so I removed them. And that might have been a mistake, because it seems like I just came off as like I was just a big Scrooge for the entire show. Although I did say I liked the Dragon Ball game, I'm just not that into Dragon Ball. If it was an IP I cared about more, I'd be more excited, but it looks really good. I've got a list of things that were announced next to me, so I'm going to go through some of them and sort of give some opinions. Of course, this is all opinions on stuff that hasn't been released yet. It's all speculative. Don't hold me to any of it. Don't come back for blood later when something turns out to suck or turns out to be really good. You never know. Okay, so first up we had EA. They showed a bunch of sports games. I think EA and Bethesda were definitely struggling to have things to show this year. I think they were faking it for most of it. They were just kind of bringing up a bunch of things that are going to be in their launch window anyway. There weren't really any surprises, nothing really to justify a show. EA had their sports games, which I'm not like a curmudgeon. I'm not like one of those people who's like, oh, sports games, not even real games. If I was really into a specific sport and every year I could play a game about the thing I'm super into, I'm down. That said, as someone who doesn't play these games, maybe I am wrong. Maybe they are, I don't know what the culture is. Do some people think FIFA 16 was really bad, but FIFA 17 is really good? Like, are there betrayals in between each year? It's kind of fascinating for me on the outside. But then again, there are people who do like FIFA videos, they get millions of views. So someone out there knows what the situation is, just not me. Yeah, Need for Speed, Star Wars, NBA, usual EA stuff. Actually, no, NBA. Didn't they stop making those because 2K's basketball games were way better? So this is kind of a bit of a comeback for them. I don't know. Someone needs to fill me in on that stuff. I don't know if you guys know about basketball games and which ones are the best. Game called Anthem was announced by BioWare. I don't really play BioWare games that seriously. Their quality tends to fluctuate a lot. I've played bits and pieces of all their games, and some of it ranges from okay to just downright hilariously bad. Credit where credit is due. This looks pretty professionally made. It looks nice. But I'd recommend not getting hyped for something like this yet. Keep an eye on it and see how things go before you start hyping up Anthem of all things. Kingdom Hearts 3 got a new trailer, but again, Square Enix say it might be another 3 years before we get the game. So it's I'm not up for the drip feed. I'm sorry. It's been like 3 years since they announced it, maybe 4 years. You just need to tell me when it's coming out at this point. I can't be dealing with this. I can't be dealing with this. They didn't even show a new world. It was a level we've already seen. It's ridiculous. I can't handle it, Square. Microsoft announced a new Xbox that's supposed to, be way more powerful than the current one, and it's like going to play 4K games, and games that are releasing, that are coming out soon are going to be at 4K. But I feel like these things, they continue to be a wasted opportunity every time. Jeff Keighley was doing interviews with developers in between the conferences. I think he was talking to BioWare, the people making the new Lord of the Rings game, and he was asking them, so hey, this new Xbox One X is really powerful. Our game's going to run at 60 FPS. Base Jeff of all people, getting in, asking the important questions. And of course they're all like, no, we just want kind of like a stable 30. I know I always beat this dead horse, but in a few years, 4K isn't going to be important. It's going to be 8K. The resolutions are just going to keep going up and up, 16K, whatever. Do you know what's not going to change, though, is frame rate. 60 FPS is always going to be a basic standard that people want and that looks really good, no matter how good or bad the resolution is. And so you're condemning your games. When people come back and play Shadow of War or whatever on the Xbox One X, it's going to be gimped and play like shit, up the graphics to this 4K stuff that isn't going to even matter in a few years when the next resolution revolution comes along. It's a waste, and it makes me just not want to buy the console if you can't even offer that. Because I know I could buy a PC, I could upgrade my PC, and I could just keep adding shit to my PC until the games play at 60. You know, I have that option. Even if I get like a low-powered rig at first that maybe doesn't play games at super high frame rate or super high resolution, I know I just have to add some stuff onto it, and I can make it do that. You know, I thought things were changing, you know, with Neo, where you could change between 1080p and 30 FPS but apparently, I don't know. I guess these devs aren't bothering because people don't care. What else do we have? Assassin's Creed. So I went on a bit of an Assassin's Creed rant in my YouTube video about E3, which is kind of a bit redundant because I feel like everyone can see the problems with Assassin's Creed a mile away. But it is crazy. The series has only been going on for like 10 years, and I'm pretty sure it has like 30 games if you count all the spin-offs. They're so oversaturated, so formulaic, so committee-driven, I feel, because there's no other way to make a game other than through committee if so many people are working on it. They have like different studios all over the world piecing these games together. And I feel like the break didn't really have an impact on Assassin's Creed Origins because it just looks like another Assassin's Creed game. And it's always really disappointed me because what an amazing premise for a series. Every game, you're a time-traveling ninja assassin in different places on the planet, and it's still like the most boring shit ever. Where you walk around, you press forward to climb up some buildings, then you sneak up and stab a guy. Combat is usually shallow and not very good. There's no zeist to it. There's no juice. It just feels like so by the numbers. I don't see this really breaking the mold in that regards. Maybe it will. Okay, we have had some games about messing around in the woods. Minecraft. Oh, okay. The Last Night, that was a really cool looking game. I'm really excited for that one. When I saw it come on stage, I was like, shit, is this like Flashback 2? Is this like Another World 2? But apparently it's just inspired by those games, but it looks really cool. There doesn't seem to be all that much gameplay going on in the trailer. Seems like it's going to be more of an adventure game, which is fine. Yeah, it looks really stylized. I'll probably be giving that a go when it comes out. Namco was showing off their new kind of Dark Souls but anime game, and I gotta admit, the art style just looks garish in this. It looks way over the top in a bad way. Bethesda announced Evil Within 2, and you'd think, since I'm doing a whole series on Resident Evil, that I'd be like, oh shit, Mikami's another horror game from Mikami. But I'll be honest, I never finished Evil Within 1. I gave up not that far into it, I feel, which bit embarrassing, to be honest. I need to go back and finish that one. Something about it just didn't click with me at the time. I think I need to go back and start it from scratch and give it another go. I know there's a lot of people who really like it, and there's a lot of people who really don't like it, so I think just for my critical catalog, I need to go and find out what I think about The Evil Within at some point. Now there's a second one coming out. I feel like the pressure is on now. I gotta go do that. The only thing out of Ubisoft's press conference that I'm really invested in any way is Beyond Good and Evil 2. I played Beyond Good and Evil years ago, not when it first came out, but around the mid-2000s, and it was pretty good. It was pretty fun. I don't consider it like an amazing masterpiece or anything. It was just a really solid adventure game with some fun mechanics, some creative ideas. I don't know. I feel like it's a bit weird that the sequel has turned into this, is it ever gonna happen? Far off game, legendary sequel. Will it ever happen? When the first game was just, pretty good. Judging from the trailer, which was like this crazy, expensive-looking CGI trailer, it looks like they're willing to put some money into Beyond Good and Evil 2 and try and make it a Ubisoft franchise. And that would be really nice, because it looks like a really fun, creative world they're looking at just judging from the CGI trailers. And that was also kind of one of the selling points of Beyond Good and Evil 1. Just a fun, interesting sci-fi world to mess about in and to explore and to meet characters in. And, hopefully once they show gameplay, it will live up to the charisma and personality of this CGI trailer, because that would be nice. I'd like Beyond Good and Evil 2 to be good. If Beyond Good and Evil 1 feels like the really good starting point to a series that never happened. So if we can actually make it a series, hey, That would be great. That would be great. I think some of you are probably wondering what I think of the Crash Bandicoot remakes. Since, you know, I was very vocally against the Ratchet and Clank one, I don't know if you've heard. These Crash remakes obviously look a lot less egregious than the Ratchet remake. The Ratchet remake was like, okay, we'll take kind of like the bones of the original, and then we're gonna add all this bullshit on and take away a bunch of good shit, and it's gonna be this like weird fever dream version of the game. Not great. This looks like it's gonna be a really like just faithful conversion. But that's the thing, right? When you're just doing a really faithful conversion, you know, I can just go back and play the old ones, you know? It's not like a big deal. I don't know if I want to drop all this money just to get a slight visual improvement. I think it's going to be interesting to see what kind of reception it gets, because Crash Bandicoot has very old school, hardcore platforming at a weird time in platforming where 3D was just introduced. And there was a lot of experimental shit going on in those games about camera angles and like mechanics. So to see it come back and it to get a critical reappraisal is going to be interesting. I wonder if there are going to be some hardcore casual reviewers who just can't handle Crash. They can't handle Slippery Climb. We'll see how it goes down. I feel like after a couple of years, when the kind of the wow factor of look at how great the PS1 game looks now on PS4 graphics wears off, it's going to be like, well, was it really that necessary? We'll see. Maybe it will sell millions and Crash fans will reemerge and there'll be a whole new Crash rebirth. They'll make loads of great new games. I'm not holding my breath. Sony, yes. Sony had a bit of a boring showing this year. Not a lot of stuff I was interested in. I didn't play Horizon, so I'm not really interested in the DLC for that. I guess I should be interested in Uncharted The Lost Legacy, because I quite enjoyed Uncharted 4. But it just feels like, you know, Uncharted 4 felt like a really good ending, and now it's like, hey, but come back and play this other chapter as these two chicks, and just... I mean, okay, yeah, I'll probably give it a go. I just want more grapple hooks. That's all. If there's no grapple hooks, I don't think I'll be satisfied, because I just want a game about the grapple mechanic in Uncharted 4. So fun. It took me back to those days of playing the Bionic Commando remake, which outside of a really really edgy story and really bad character designs, is actually a pretty fun game. A pretty fun game about swinging around and shooting. I'm going off on a real big tangent here. You have Days Gone, which just frustrates me. Because obviously this is a game with a lot of Sony money put into it. It's like they showed up at the developer's studio with like, okay, here's like millions of dollars. Make us a big, juicy Sony IP for PS4. Here you go. And what do they make? A zombie game set in the woods with stealth mechanics. Brilliant. Brilliant, amazing. I mean, come on, guys, really? It's like you're just asking for people to be like, well, this is like Last of Us, but not as good. It's a knockoff. You know, come on, is this the best we can do? Monster Hunter World, I'll admit, I'm not a big Monster Hunter guy. Haven't really played the games. Everyone talks about how there's like a learning curve where you start the games and they're a bit tedious and you got to like get over this hump. And I've never gotten over that hump. I know that hump is there to get over. I probably could get into it if I tried really hard, but I just need to have some time to really take a stab at it. But this looks like a daring kind of direction to take. It looks like Capcom have seen the slight increase in popularity that Monster Hunter has had in the West. And now they're like, well, why don't we, let's go for it, guys. Let's make a really big next-gen one, and hopefully it will skyrocket the series to further success. I don't know if it's going to work, but good luck, Capcom. This also ties into my last TGB Insider, where I talked about Capcom having one last big title to announce for the end of 2017/beginning of 2018. And it turns out now, I guess it was Monster Hunter. Where's Itsuno? Where's Devil May Cry? Where's Dragon's Dogma? Whatever he's making, we don't know yet. In fairness, we still have a whole year of window. He said he'd announce the game this year. We're only halfway through the year. So, could be TGS, could be PlayStation Experience, could be the Game Awards. There's a lot of time left. Dante could still come back. It's not too late. Even though I feel like this E3 was a personal slap in the face, considering how much hype there is for DMC5 and how long we've been waiting and how ravenous the fans are. And then you bring Dante out and this like really weird, janky new art style they have for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And the stinger for your trailer is him throwing some guns at Rocket Raccoon and him being like, I love these guns, I love DMC, and then it fades to black and we never see him again. It's like, I feel like they personally were looking for a way to really get to me, and they succeeded. Good job, Sony. You really... Capcom, Sony, you fucked me up this time. Okay, so I got some shit for not being into the Shadow of the Colossus remake, but I just don't get it. I just don't know why people want this remake. It just seems so weird. I wouldn't mind a port, stick it on PS4 as it is, and like up the performance on PS4, that'd be great. This kind of let's remodel everything and make it look super shiny and next gen. It feels like you're like erasing the fucking paint off of Picasso and then you're drawing it in again, but better. You know, it's like, come on guys, you know. Shadow of the Colossus came out at a time when art games were still games. It's a really good game. I love Shadow of the Colossus. But it's like, you know, it's weird because when people say, oh, I love Shadow of the Colossus, it really needs a remake, they're basically admitting, like, that original game isn't good enough for me anymore. Yeah, you're a real big fan of Shadow of the Colossus then, if you think they have to fix it so badly. I don't know, guys. It just seems completely unneeded. I'm sure Sony will make a couple bob off it. I dedicated quite a bit of time to Spider-Man and God of War in my actual video, so I feel like I don't really need to bring them up here. Still not sold on either of them, especially not God of War, which just seems to be so gung-ho about this new direction, which is the complete polar opposite of what the series was. I play God of War for great combat, and no matter whether you think the story is good or bad, that combat just looks like a downgrade from what God of War was, so I'm still not on board. Probably never will be. I don't feel like I'll have to review it when it comes out, because I feel like my original video I did last year will be completely accurate and represent the game just fine. So I guess what most of you probably want me to talk about is Metroid. There's been a lot of talk about who's in charge, who's making the games, and it's pretty interesting, so I'll go into it. First of all, of course, Metroid Prime 4, not being developed by Retro, instead the series producer Tanabe-san, I can't remember his first name, will be heading the project, will be producing the new game, but Retro Studios, the developer of the original Prime trilogy, won't be involved. What I've heard is that Tanabe and Retro didn't really get on. They had a bit of a clash at some point. I heard this quite a while ago, before E3, and they kind of split ways. And what I think people don't realize about Prime is that Prime is kind of Tanabe's project. It's kind of his world. He's the one who does the lore and kind of sets about what the game's gonna be, kind of. So I wouldn't worry too much about that side of Metroid Prime 4. I feel that's gonna be pretty consistent, because Tanabe is still involved. But yeah, it's interesting that it's gonna be a whole new team, kind of handpicked by Tanabe. But you know, Nintendo aren't just gonna make Metroid Prime 4. They're not gonna start making it and then just shit something out. You know, they're gonna do their best. Nintendo always, you know, pretty good at making games. Whether or not they make the right decision when making them is usually the problem. But it's rare that they ever release, like, some broken piece of shit that just doesn't work. So I still have a lot of confidence with Prime 4 with Tanabe involved. Even though he sounds like a bit of a slave driver from what I've heard and the clashes he's had with developers like Retro, but, you know, I'm hopeful for that. And then, of course, we have the return of Yoshio Sakamoto, the fourth horseman of the apocalypse. He's back. He's doing Metroid again. I think it's gonna be okay. I had that little stinger at the end of the video kind of as a joke, like, uh-oh, Sakamoto's back, what's he gonna do now? But when he's making 2D Metroid games, usually they're pretty good. Like, Metroid Fusion was 2002, Zero Mission was mid-2000s. If his last two games were Other M and Fusion, I'd be a bit worried, because Fusion had some kind of shitty stuff in it, bit of a restrictive story, handholdy shit, but then he made Zero Mission, which was amazing. The fact that he seems to be making a 2D Metroid game without a significant story on the 3DS, you know, I have faith it will be good. People are talking about the fact that Mercury Steam is making it, a Spanish developer who made the new Castlevania games. They made the hack and slash ones and the 2D one on 3DS, and I know people have kind of resentment against those guys. Igarashi, who was like the head of Castlevania for ages, made all those great Metroidvania ones on GBA and DS. He kind of got supplanted by these new guys. I haven't actually played that Castlevania game on 3DS, but I've heard that people were kind of lukewarm on it. But the fact is, though, if they actually had Igarashi there, like, telling them what to do when they made that Castlevania game, I'm sure it would have been a lot better than it is, and these guys have Sakamoto watching over their shoulder, who, admittedly, has made some very bad choices in the past, but when he was tasked with remaking a Metroid game last time, it was like one of the best Metroid games, so fingers crossed. And that kind of wraps up E3 talk for me. Nothing else I'm really that interested in. You know me, big old weeb TGB. I'm kind of more into TGS, you know, seeing what kind of wacky stuff they announce. So I'll be waiting for that. That'll make another good episode when that rolls around. So before I go, I'm going to talk a bit about what's going on with the channel. Usually I'd talk about what games I'm playing at the moment, but I've had such a busy time, I haven't really had time to play anything new, which is really ironic because the whole point of this whole project, this whole channel, is that I play games. Last month I said there'd be a Devil May Cry and a Metal Gear Solid video coming out at some point. What happened there is at the start of May, I actually started working on that Devil May Cry video. I wrote it, this huge, mega, like, 4,000 word script, and I just kind of lost a bit of confidence in it. Like, it was intended to be a really, like, kind of shorter video, talking a bit about some DMC topics, some design stuff, and then it just got way out of hand, and I just felt, I don't know if it turned into a big project, basically, and I don't know if I have the confidence to do it all at this time. When Devil May Cry isn't really that relevant, and they didn't announce a new game at E3 either. It's a very kind of self-indulgent video, and I think I want to refine it more, maybe try and cut some stuff out before I go ahead with it again, you know. So it was around that time, beginning of May, that I decided instead to jump into the first episode of Resident Evil, which at first was really fun, but then turned into this really hard project in and of itself. Very hard to make. The first episode, I feel like it's kind of new waters for me. I haven't really done a series like this before with like an episode 1, 2, 3, with this kind of focus on design. So it's a bit of a growing process. Partly why I wanted to do it is I wanted to test myself in new waters. I think the first episode is good, but it definitely has some like growing pains. Definitely a bit of development to do in refining the style, trying to combine my usual style with this very analytical new style I'm doing. So I think as the series goes on, it's going to evolve and get a little more refined. I know the first episode was a bit unpolished in areas, but a lot of that also had to do with the fact that my PC just completely crapped out on me. It's not dead, but anytime I try to do anything intensive, this auto surge thing kicks in to try and stop the computer from melting or something. It just will shut the computer off. So anytime I try and play a game or render a video on the PC, it will shut itself down, and I'm not sure what the problem is at the moment. I replaced the power supply, and that didn't help, so money wasted on that. I'll just keep replacing parts, I guess, until I figure it out. So what I had to do for Resident Evil at the last moment, so the computer had this problem right as I was finishing working on the Resident Evil episode, so at the last minute I had to transfer all my files to my MacBook, which renders way slower, and it was just a nightmare transferring the files. Like, I had to find every little image, and there's a lot of images in that video. It's a very image-intensive video with a lot of flowcharts and stuff. I had to find every little piece, bring it over to the MacBook, and of course there's not enough space on the MacBook for all of it, so I had to have like 2 hard drives hooked up to it at the same time, and then render it, and it was a nightmare, because any time it would come out with a problem, I'd have to re-render it again, and on the MacBook it was a really complicated edit, so it would take like 5 hours to render the video. It was a nightmare. It was not great. The E3 video I actually did entirely on my laptop, hooked up to my big monitor. But I can't do that forever. I need to fix the PC at some point. I don't know if I can pull off another Road to the Rocket Launcher episode if I have to do it on the laptop. I think the next 2 or 3 projects that I have that I'm going to do that don't involve Resident Evil, I think I'll be able to handle that just on the laptop, but I think I'm definitely going to need to repair the PC before I make another episode of Road to the Rocket Launcher. Some of you were also wondering, understandably, what happens when the Road to the Rocket Launcher stretch goal on Patreon, which is $500, goes below $500 on occasion. Basically, I will make the series as long as we're over $500. If it goes below $500, just assume that the series is on hold until it's back over $500. If it's over $500, another episode is on the cards. It's coming at some point. May not be immediately, but 500 signifies in production will happen. As for what's coming next, while the Devil May Cry video is kind of on hold, I have a lot of confidence in this Metal Gear Solid video. I'm enjoying making it. I think it's going to be pretty fun. So look forward to that in the near future. I think that will do for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of TGB Insider. It's becoming apparent that I may not have loads to talk about every month if I've just been working on a video and haven't been playing many games. So, as a contingency, I think I might open up a Q&A segment on these videos. Don't ask questions yet. I'll probably make a post close to the next episode for $3 backers where you can ask your questions. I think that'll be a good idea. But anyway, hope you enjoyed. I'll catch you guys next time.